How do fractional CMOs hit the ground running? Hi, I'm Dean Waye. Welcome to Fractional CMOs and the 90-day win. There's a lot of variety in how they kick off a new client engagement. In fact, there's so much variety, it's valuable to just listen to what opportunities they look for and what they tackle first and what they wish wasn't true when they start a new project. So let's find out. Hi, Melanie.
Hey,
Melanie,
Dean.
imagine that you just started a new engagement, okay? You're the fractional CMO. We'll talk about early wins next. But first, what problems do you normally see, or what problems do you typically look for when you start a new engagement? And tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, first, I'm Melanie Sommer, and I'm the CEO and Principal Marketing Consultant with Initium Marketing. I've worked with a lot of brands you've probably heard of, but these days I also help startups and smaller companies, especially those who need an entire marketing function built from scratch, as in they don't have much of anything, no branding, no positioning, no story,
Right.
color scheme, you name it. Anyway, I pull all of that into place and put that into place for them. Um, I know it's the least glamorous type of CMO gig, but on the same day, you might be in a board meeting and then you're posting to LinkedIn and then you're checking stats on your ad campaigns and on and on. But I love it. It's a great job. So I'm kind of the kitchen sink of CMOs.
Great.
And what do I look for on the first
What
day?
problems do you typically see or look for when you kick off a new engagement? Yeah.
So typically I'm looking for areas of misalignment and
Mm.
and also just trying to educate the leadership team. Usually at a startup, they're running so hard and so fast. They don't spend a lot of time in alignment on strategies and marketing objectives. And so it's nice to come in as an outsider and look at, what's going on, take that big picture look and say, hey, you guys are running over here and over there. We need to bring this all together and be aligned. So first of all, I like to get everybody on the same page and agreeing on priorities and what comes first, because there's so much to do in the beginning of a startup.
Right. So then what about, let's flip that around then. What about early wins or sort of low-hanging fruit do you like to look for or accomplish in the first 90 days?
Well, I think doing a quick audit of all of
Hmm.
their marketing assets, right? What's happening on their website? Are they actually optimizing for SEO? Is it aligned with their target audience? Do they even know who their target audience is or their ideal customer profile? Have they documented that? So helping them just to define who we're targeting, what industries we're going after, and what our core value propositions are, how we're differentiated in the market. Do we all agree on this? And then getting consistency in that message, at least on the website and the sales pitch and the core assets that they're using to talk to prospects. So getting that message clarity and alignment on goals and what we can do in the next 3 months, just really
Right.
setting them up
Yeah.
for success there.
Okay. So then, I mean, you've worked with a lot of companies, big and small. What do clients normally not see or not know about until you start working with them?
I think just their understanding the flow of communication and having the right content, having a decent content strategy that walks a prospect through the entire the buying cycle, knowing that most customers these days do not want to talk to you until they're about 80% of the way through their research. You have to have the ability to capture attention, capture the attention, nurture them through a few of the stages of research, understanding they have a problem, figuring out how to solve it, and why your company is the best one, really helping them build that content strategy. Um, they don't really think through that. They just want to start talking about their product immediately.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
It can be very much hey, sit still while I talk about my company
yeah.
kind of content strategy, and nobody owes us their attention at all. So
Exactly. And I think that there's a little bit of impatience to get to the pitch, to the sales meeting.
Yeah.
And most of the startups that I'm working with, they want that quick win of a sale. And in my mind, as the CMO, I'm like, the quick win is that people are actually coming to your website, people are
Right.
downloading content. We're going to get to the sales call, but it takes time, So you have to do the quick wins of getting some hot leads. At the same time, you're laying the foundation for longer term growth.
Okay. So then what do you think, what should a CEO understand? Most of the audience are on an ELT or CEO kind of tier. That let's say that they're looking at hiring their first ever fractional executive or first ever fractional CMO.
Yeah.
What should they understand about fractional CMOs to get the maximum value from one? Like squeeze every last penny of value from their first ever fractional CMO.
Well, for the teams that I've had the most success with, they bring me into the inner circle, right?
Right.
I'm a part of the leadership team, so I get to sit on the weekly staff calls. I have one-on-ones with the CEO and the head of sales, right? So we're really locking arms rather than being treated as an outsider or a consultant, where it's kind of like, well, let me just sit back and see what this person's going to do for us. It's like, let me bring you into the fold and make you a part of our team so that you feel the way they feel. You feel like you're a part of it. And as things evolve and shift in real time, you're able to pick up and run with that. Being treated as an outsider contractor, let's see how they perform,
Right.
is not necessarily the best way to handle a fractional CMO or a fractional employee of any kind. Bringing them into the fold is key. Also, being willing to try the things that they suggest. I have some clients who are very resistant, and so you have to have resistance-free power to make things happen in the marketing areas to be effective. So you might need to, get more budget, have more authority on the resources on internally to assist you to execute, right? If you're bringing in a fractional CMO for strategic work, who's going to do the execution? And are they willing to cooperate with this outside CMO?
Right. Do you find that I imagine there's a lot more opportunity for experimentation on the B2C side? Like, I'll give you an example. I've worked for a few enterprise software, like telco kind of providers, and like they sold into telcos and stuff. And I mean, for some of those companies, what they make is so expensive, and the companies who buy it are so big. There
Right.
might only be 100 companies on Earth who will ever be customers for them, and so they don't get the, hey, let's run a test in Akron, Ohio for 5,000 people and see what we can, see whether this idea works, right? Because they don't, even burning one prospect over the net, could have ramifications for years and years. So do you
Right.
find that B2C is more willing to experiment than B2B, or does it just have to be like approached differently or framed differently to the client?
I think, no, I think there's opportunity to test and that you
Right.
get multiple chances. I mean, yes, there might be 100 companies for
Yeah.
B2B, but how many individuals within those companies are
Right.
tons of
Plus, let's face it, they're not really paying attention to you at any given time. So they'll forget the campaign you ran 4 months ago.
You have grace. And as long
Yeah.
as you have grace, and the key is consistency, right? And staying consistent and repetition. So they need to hear from you many times over before they take action. So whether it's B2C or B2B, the same principles apply.
By the way, I don't know if you definitely have a great attitude for this, because earlier you said a phrase that almost no one ever says. You said, "I get to sit in on the weekly staff meeting." Like, get to. That's very optimistic. It's very
Yeah.
like positive. Not many people. Not very often is the phrase "I get to go to the weekly staff meeting," right, ever spoken anywhere by anyone, right?
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, and it's true when you're a fractional CMO, you're
yeah,
independent. And so it's nice to be invited and be a part of a team. That is, one of the things I miss most about being an actual member of a full-time employee. So I do get to be a part of a team. I get invited to holiday gatherings, and So that's fine. And I'm an eternal,
Fair enough.
so I bring that in.
Okay, so I mean, ideally, this shouldn't happen to you, given that you have your own, as you would have to, vetting or sales process. But what are signs that a client should not have hired a fractional CMO or weren't ready to hire a fractional CMO yet? Red flag, basically.
Okay, I think that sometimes they want that strategic leadership, but they don't necessarily have the budget for it.
Mm.
So if they're on a really, really tight budget and they're still, because I work with a lot of startups, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
there is a specific time where it's appropriate to bring someone like me in. So you want to have enough budget to go execute on the plan. It's one thing to have the plan and the senior level strategic thinker, but who's going to do the work? So if you don't have either the internal resources ready to help execute, or you don't have the budget to allocate that to outside resources to help, that's going to be a challenge if you're always fighting for the dollar.
Yeah.
Also, I think changing priorities, and even if it's too early in the product life cycle, those are also things, because you're spending a lot of time with a CMO and continuing to change. We're going to do this. No, we're going to do that.
Right.
So I see that happen a lot. Also, just having, I mentioned resistance on the internal team, and just having that acceptance of the fractional CMO as being part of the team and not an outsider. If they're still super skeptical and they see you as a consultant, it's kind of a 4-letter word. It's many
Yeah.
letters, but consultant can be a 4-letter word. So if they view a fractional CMO as a consultant, it's not the right fit. You want someone who's going to value the marketing input from this person, and then the people that are more willing to take action on the recommendations.
Right. What you're talking about earlier about like they haven't sort of stabilized on who they are and like what they're making and what they're going to sell and so on. That reminded me of, oh my God, this was this was decades ago. I was reading a book about like investing in the stock market, and this author had a great line. He says, if you don't know what kind of person you are, investing in stocks is an expensive way to find out.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, but at the same time with startups, that's where a CMO, a marketing leader, can actually come in and help you. I mean,
Right.
you don't want to get too far developing a product and then go, we have this product, who can we sell it to? Really, the marketing person can come in and say, what is the market? Where are the holes in the market? Where can we best serve that are, the people that we think we're going to sell? How are we going to position this product? So the head of marketing can help you with that. But also if it's super early, it's not time. Again, it comes down to budgeting and resources. So
I have a hypothetical for you as we sort of wrap up. So the CEO comes to you, relatively small company, you work at a lot of startups. CEO comes to you and says, hey, Melanie, you and I are going to interview and select the next head of sales. What are you looking for? What are the green flags or red flags for a head of sales as the head of marketing?
well, I mean, because I view the head of sales as my work spouse, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is the person that I'm going to be linked to at the hip, and having that collaborative relationship where we can be honest with each other and not end up being on opposite sides of, the battles. Going to battle together is best. So I like to have that conversation and see how they feel about marketing. Make sure that they have a customer centric point of view, because always thinking about the customer and making sure that you're aware of industry trends and things like that. So are they really looking on the outside, or are they too busy looking at the product and trying to sell us versus a value for the customer?
Right.
So customer centric view, marketing collaboration, those are both super important to me. Someone who's also understands the long game, right? Yes, you need quick wins and you need to start making money in your commissions, but we also have to build up a pipeline, a database, So someone who understands that process and knows that there are stages in the marketing pipeline before they get to sales. The best VPs of sales understand that process and know that marketing isn't going to be 100% responsible for revenue, right? It's a shared effort. And so really just someone that understands all of that. I also love heads of sales who aren't afraid to roll up their sleeves and get dirty, right? They're making the calls, they're following up on leads and
Right.
digging into the technology and helping figure out what's the best automated workflow so that I can respond to these. I really, and that's also because I do work with startups, right? So everyone is scrappy, wearing multiple hats, and the head of sales should be no different.
No, right. That makes a lot of sense. All
Great.
right. How do people like your LinkedIn is on? Oh, actually, your LinkedIn is not, but your URL is on the page. And by the way, I think I don't know at this point. I mean, we're still new in the podcast process, but you're like guest number 22 or something. You're the first one who's had a domain name that ended in .marketing.
.marketing, initium.marketing. You can find me there, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Melanie Meyer-Sommer. And I'd love to talk to anybody who's trying to decide if they need a
Yeah.
fractional CMO or just, an advisor.
All right. And that's it today. Thank you very much for being here. I know it was sort of like, on my side too, it was sort of a reschedule. So I appreciate it.
Hey,
Just goes to show how accommodating Melanie is. So there you go.
I am. Well, thank you for having me. It's such an honor. And I love 22. It's my number. If it comes to a 4, I'm a 4.
Perfect.
Love it.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Melanie.
Thanks.